Hello, my friends. Welcome to Love's Inner Voice, the path of self-discovery. I'm Brenda Balding, and I'm so happy that you have joined me today. You get to know a little bit more about me in this time together. Let's start out with our heart breathing. For those of you that are new, we do heart math heart breathing. And just imagine that you're breathing in love's warm light, divine light, whatever you would like to call it and picture it, into your heart, down into your lungs, down to your core slowly, and breathing out anything that you're ready to get rid of in this moment in time. And let's do that to some beautiful, soft music. 3 or 4 times. You can do it with your eyes closed or open. Let's do some heart breathing. In to the count of 4 or 5, whatever's comfortable for you. Breathe in light and love. Breathe out anything that you're ready to release at this moment in time into that loving embrace. Notice any response you feel in your body as you do this. Any release of tension. This is a beautiful thing to do when you're caught in feelings, caught in emotion, caught in ring around the row thinking. Just do some conscious heart breathing. Welcome, everyone. What a blessing it is to be here with you today. I'm going to talk about resolutions and honesty versus dreams related to the resolutions that we make throughout the year, not just in January or December. And then I'm all going to share with you season 1 and what's coming up for season 2. So thank you so much for being here. Like I said, I'm Brenda Balding. I am a longtime registered nurse and a Reiki healer, a TV show host for Love's Inner Voice. And I chose Love's Inner Voice because it is about learning to listen to our inner voice to help us on our road of self-discovery, to be the most authentic person that we can be. And isn't that what we want to be, how we want to show up in the world? Because we're all unique. And, you know, there's how many TV hosts out there? And we're all talking somewhat about the same things, or a lot of us are. And it's all uniquely different from a different perspective. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I have a little guest promo to show you for an upcoming guest by the name of Brenda Benton. And she is a beautiful woman, a body-mind coach, and she wants to assist all of us to become the best that we can become. So here's a little bit about Brenda. Hello, my friends. Brenda L. Balding here. The L stands for Love's Inner Voice, my TV show on I Have Today TV network, E360 TV. So blessed to be doing this, and I have a show coming up with Brenda Benton, and we will be dismantling shame with compassion. Shame is something that we all feel and we don't want to sometimes. So please join us Thursdays, 4 p.m. Pacific time, and be well. Have a beautiful day. Brenda signing off. Bye for now. Yes, we are going to be talking about shame with Brenda and how we can move through it, learn from it. We can from all of our emotions. And that's one of the resolutions that I have. And, how many of us make a resolution every time we get up in the morning, especially if we feel like we didn't do as well as we could have the day before? Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to maintain my diet. I'm going to make those phone calls I promised. I'm going to sit in front of the computer and write more on my book. I'm going to be loving and kind to my children. Whatever. We make resolutions frequently. Many of us make them in December for January or the beginning of January, and then a month later, they kind of disappear because we get busy. I know that's happened to me in the past. And what I realized is that I need to be really honest about what I really can do. It doesn't mean that I can't have a long list. It just means that I need to have gratitude for the things that I have accomplished that day and let go of the things that I didn't, because if I prioritized my list, the things at the bottom may not be as important. And it depends on how I define important, how you define important. And I put honesty versus dream because I have big dreams and I really need to be aware of what is a real dream. What do I have groundwork for? What am I willing to show up for to do all the pieces that make the dream happen? And what am I not? And that's where the honesty comes in. So it's really a pattern or a gift to have both a dream and honesty about the dream. But it can be a versus, because sometimes the dream is so big that there's no way that I can make it happen in reality. Now, that doesn't mean that source, divine, can't assist me to make it happen. And that depends on all of us and how you see that and where you stand in that. And we had some speakers in the first season that talked about the reality of things and how we can move through things, how our animals can assist us to move things with Annie Bork. And animals do talk to us. And if you have some animals in your life, I don't have any that I'm living with. I do have animals in my life because I do dog sitting for friends. I walk with a friend and her dog. when it's not raining like it has been the last few days here in Northern California. But you know, what a gift that is. So here's a picture and a reminder of the different shows we've had this first season, and it's a season of 12. We've talked about guilt. We've talked about how to move through that. We've talked about empathy. We've talked about tapping. And we actually did some tapping and some somatic exercising with John Freedom. How fun was that? So please take a look at the past shows because they are available to anyone who wants to see them. And upcoming shows, we have someone who just showed and whose show will be up shortly on healing. And we actually did a Reiki healing. And no matter when you watch it, you will get that healing with Kathleen Joan. And that's in season 2. So, you know, life is grand when we make it so. Let's do a little bit more breathing, oneness with our higher power, connection with source as we walk through this beautiful music again. You know, music is really a gift, acting as if things are going to struggle to help us with our resolutions, to help us clarify what's important for right now, because it truly is about the now. What a gift. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe out anything that you're ready to get rid of right now. That doesn't mean you can't take it back. You know, I take things back all the time. And it's not always in my best interest to do that. But life is really grand when I'm walking in my best way of being. And, you know, one of the people that you'll see in season 2 is Jill Lublin. And she is an actually incredible person and created the Kindness Circle. And anyone can look up her name and Kindness Circle and join us. It's a good networking place. It's also a wonderful place to bring back to present time kindness. And how can I be kind? And what does that look like? I know that when I go to the grocery store, I'll say hello to people as I'm walking from the car into the store. And some of them are really focused on their phone and they don't respond to me at all. Others look up and smile. Some people actually say hello. And you know what? It doesn't matter because it feeds my soul. And hopefully it gives them a little bit of recognition that somebody sees them. And isn't that what we want, is to be seen? So some of the topics that we had in the first season was my intro to the show, show love to one person and change the world. That was with Andrea Pudding, who lives in Australia. Beautiful woman. And we talked about how we can change the world one action at a time, with kindness, with compassion, with love, however that looks to us. We can make it easy or we can make it hard. That's one of the choices we have. Then I told you about Annie Borg. We did health and healing, how animals impact your life, and how they help us to heal and how they can help us to learn. And she's an intuitive who can speak to animals. And animals love it when we go to the zoo and acknowledge them, say hello to them. You might be surprised of what you get back. I know I was when I've done that at the zoo. Or with trees, when COVID first happened, because I'm a hugger and I live alone. And so, I can hug myself. Yeah, I can hug myself a lot. When I would go out for my walks, we have a beautiful oak tree that's right close to where I ride my trike and we walk. And I would walk up to it and give it a big hug, say hello to it, and I could feel the energy of that tree hugging me back. And, some people can really feel that energy and others can't. I can tell you I did. And what a blessing. I don't need to hug it now because I can get hugs elsewhere. I still touch it most days and thank it for what it did for me during COVID. So we just never know what energy is out there to support us and to lead us on our journey of resolution, honesty, dreams, compassion, oneness with whatever energy, higher power, source, divine. It doesn't matter what we call that energy. To me, it's a loving energy. Yes, there's energy out there that is not so loving, and I can ask for it to be transmuted, to be healed, or ask for protection from it. So then we had Beverly Brunel, and we talked about honesty again. Be truthful with yourself and others. And one of the things that I have found it hard to be truthful about is what I'm feeling in any given situation, especially with my family. I'm the eldest of 7, and I have a brother that's 11 months younger than I am. And we used to fight for who's in charge because he was male and I was the eldest and female. And I had a grandfather who really touted the males. He would hug the females, but he loved it when his grandsons were around, and his sons. My dad is one of 11, and he's number 3 in the line, the second son. And I'm lucky to still have him at 98 3/4 right now. He was born in 1926. So he's experienced a whole lot of things that many of us will never experience. And yet, some of what we're going through right now was experienced in the 20s, and then again in the 40s, and then again in the 50s or the 60s. So, you know what? Things are cyclical, just like the moon, just like the stars. So we talked about honesty with Beverly. That was really beautiful. And then the next show was with Christy Karate. And we talked about self-love changes us and changes the world. And a lot of people think that if I'm loving myself and if I'm focusing on myself, I'm being really selfish. And you'll hear a talk from my TV show coach, Diane Forster, who talks about selfish and how important it is. For me, it's about self-care, and it doesn't really matter the language we use. It's about, if I don't love myself, if I don't take care of myself, how can I be present for my daughter, for my grandnieces and nephews, for my dad, for my siblings, for you? And how can you be present for your loved ones or your work companions? If we're not walking in empathy and care and self-care for ourselves, meaning eating healthy, doing exercise if that works for us, doing reading, doing meditation, prayer, whatever works for us that nourishes love's inner voice. What nourishes your love's inner voice? Sometimes it changes depending on how I'm feeling, because if I'm feeling down or why me, I get to look at that, take a heart breath, and go, oh, where's this coming from? What's going on that I feel this yuck way? And who is really speaking? And then I start asking myself, who's driving this bus? Is it me? Is it a feeling? Is it something from my past? Because I do have PTSD in my past, as most of us probably do. And I honor that. I don't want it to run me, because that's not in the now. That's in the past. I get to learn from the past, and I'm blessed to learn from the past. I don't need to be in the past. And I'm blessed to create things for the future, like who's going to be on the TV show, meeting with them, scheduling my schedule so that I can show up for people that want to be with me. But I don't want to live in the future. That's not the best place for any of us to be. It's best to be in the now, in our best way of being. And I can't be the best way of being if I'm not taking care of myself so that I can show up for others. So to me, it's not selfish. And in the normal lexicon of that word, which is for most people negative. Selfish in a good way, I'm okay with that. It just depends on what that way is and how I use that terminology, or how someone uses that terminology. Then I did a solo show about guests coming soon and telling you more about me. And then we had Ann Jonas, and we talked about sacred awakening, open to the abundant happiness and love. And that kind of steps off from my second book called Sacred Connections, because how we're connected to the sacred, the divine, whatever terminology, source, creator, God. This is not a religious show. We don't talk about religion because we are not a religion. I am sharing, and my guests are sharing, tools that we can use to be the best person we can be, so that we're walking and listening to love's inner voice to learn more about ourselves in self-discovery. And that can be really hard sometimes, because we don't want to see that part of us. Or we may have had such a traumatic past, we don't want to look at it, we want to shove it down. with whatever, whether it's gambling or money or alcohol or sex or food. I deal with food. Others deal with other addictive behaviors. None of them are bad. They are all protection mechanisms usually. And I'm hoping that this show helps you realize that most of us have these kinds of things in our background. Some more, some less. There's no judgment here. And that we're all unique, beautifully unique in our response, in our experience, and how we choose to react to any given situation. Everybody's going to react differently, and everybody's going to think differently. Oh my gosh, the merry-go-round I can get on when things bother me and my brain is going, oh, but, if only, oh, you should do this, oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, those darn shoulds. They can get us. They can get me. I don't know about you. So self-love changes us and changes the world. And it truly does. Am I being compassionate to myself? Am I allowing myself to feel what it is that I'm feeling and learning from it? Do I love myself just as I am? Thank goodness I don't have to be perfect, because perfection is really hard to maintain. I don't want to be perfect anyway. It's no fun. It's not creative. It doesn't allow me to discover. If I'm perfect, there's nothing to discover. Well, that's a big myth in my belief, my brain's belief. So then we had John Freedom, and he talked about somatic self-care. And we did some somatic exercises, and we also did some tapping to open and release whatever we were holding in the moment. And tapping is EFT, emotional frequency technique, where we're tapping on points of energy in our body and releasing energy, and then filling up again with love and compassion for ourselves. That was fun. He has a free transformation service on Pacific Standard Time at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesdays. He calls them Transformational Tuesdays. And if you look up John Freedom Transformational Tuesdays, you can find out about it. You can make a donation as a thank you. It is free, and anyone can join, can attend. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 Pacific Standard Time on Tuesday evenings. And we have people from all over the United States that attend. Then we talked about empathy and emotional intelligence with Michelle J. Howe. And empathy is different than emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, is called EQ in the science, brain, energy. And empathy comes from the heart, comes from your inner voice. And she's going to be joining us again in 2025 to talk about empathy in the workplace. So be sure and join us then. I forgot to mention that you can watch John's show anytime by going to my TV link, which you can get on my Linktree connection, which is scrolling at the bottom of your screen. But empathy, what does that really look like? Is it accepting someone just who they are? It's more about noticing where they are emotionally, maybe psychologically, but more emotionally, and supporting them in whatever way. We're not here to fix anybody. We think we are. I know I did as an eldest and as a nurse. Thought I was always here to fix people. That was my job, was to fix people. Well, fix people physically, yes. Heal them physically, yes. But fixing people emotionally and psychologically, that's not my job. My job is to be present, to support people where they are. At least that's what I feel my job is. You know, my daughter, who is a beautiful young woman, I love her dearly, and she's in her late 40s right now. She reminds me because I gave her permission as she was growing up. I was a single parent from the time she was 5, blessed to be a single parent. Her dad had problems and needed to deal with things in a different way. And I allowed him his choice. And she lets me know when I'm overstepping. And she goes, "Mother." And if I can't hear because I'm trying to fix somebody else in the room, she'll go, "Brenda." And I'm going, "Oh, okay. What are you doing?" How many of you have children that do that? Or she'll go, "Mom." But mostly, if she wants to call my attention to what I'm doing, that maybe in a fixing mode, maybe in a letting her know how I think she should do it. There's those darn shoulds again. She'll go, "Mother." And I go, "Oh, I overstepped, huh?" I've learned, thanks to her, to ask anyone most of the time, because I'm a good forgetter too, like a lot of us do. Would you like my thoughts about that? Or would you like me to comment about that? Then I'm giving the person a choice to hear what I have to say, which means that they're willing to listen. And if they say no, then it's called zip it, move on, and know that they heard that I have some thoughts about that. And if they ever want to ask me what my thoughts are, they usually do. Maybe 2 or 3 days later, maybe the next time we meet, maybe never. And that's their choice. And you know, when I was talking about perfection, it's also about control. And I've always believed that the big ego, meaning capital E, capital G, capital O, because that's big control, that's me in charge, I'm the director, nobody else can tell me what to do. That means that I'm edging God out, or edging higher power, or edging source out, edging my inner voice, my love's inner voice out, because I've closed off. And I'm never closed off from source, but I've closed down the communication lines. This is my brain's belief, but that's my experience too, is that I don't hear that inner voice when I'm so stuck on being in charge and knowing exactly what we need to do. Well, you know what? That doesn't happen very often. I know how to cook. I know what I'm going to fix for my meals, but I'm talking about big things around feelings, around plans, around, going from point A to point B in my life. And, I know minuscule about TV hosting. I have beautiful, wonderful team members, virtual assistants from the Philippines who support me in so many ways. They create the thumbnails that you see. I create the little promo videos, but they make it look pretty. Putting the pictures before, putting the pictures after. So, you know what? There's lots of people in our life that I want to acknowledge. I was at the Kindness Circle a couple of weeks ago, and there was a speaker. She usually always has a speaker who wrote a book about her experience of sending a kindness note every day for 365 days. And what that experience was like, giving examples of how you can finish and never using the words thank you. Using other words, appreciation, gratitude, honor, all of those kinds of synonyms for thank you. So that then they're hearing what you're actually saying and how they contributed to your life. Give it a go. It's actually kind of fun. Some days I just don't have time to do them. Majority of the days I actually do it, and it calms me down and gets me into a place of gratitude. So after that, we talked about grief with Emily Thoreau Threat. Navigating your journey toward happiness. And when she and I talked, because I talk with all my guests before we decide to do a show together, I meet with them for a half an hour minimum. And I was saying, you know what? I realized that I've been in grief about various body parts that I've lost, and I never realized I needed to grieve them. Like I had a total knee 10 years ago and I never grieved the loss of those bones. That's a part of my physical body that was lost. And internal, like gallbladders and uteruses and tonsils and all of that, there's still losses of body parts. And I realized that I needed to grieve all of those. And it all came to fruition when my mother passed 6 years ago now. And I was wondering, why is grief hanging on so long? And grief is always a part of us, I realized. And then I had a realization about 2 weeks ago or a month ago that mothers need to grieve the birth of their children because they've just lost a huge body part that was part of them for 9 or 10 months. And no wonder some women go into postpartum depression. They're in grief, and nobody talks about that. We had a conversation about that, and she goes, oh my gosh, absolutely. And then when the placenta comes out and all of the blood vessels that were created to nurture that child, they're all lost. So it's an interesting perspective that we need to allow women to grieve. And society says, no, they're sick. Well, no, they're not. Some of them may need to do it longer than others. Some of them may need counseling help. We all do it sometime in our life. I know I have a couple times. It doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make anybody weak. For me, that takes courage and strength to say, I need help. My big ego is in the way when I'm not willing to say, I need help with whatever. I used to be able to do my own basic plumbing repairs under the sink and, all of that, repairs around the house. I don't do that anymore because my body doesn't allow me to get down there and under and in and out. I choose to have a handyman assist me with those things, putting things together, all of that. And that's okay. How many of us are not honest about when we might need help? And it doesn't matter how old we are or young we are or what our job is. So big ego can get in my way. To me, little ego, that's small letters, is my free will, where I can choose to surrender, to have courage, to surrender to a love that's greater than mine, a power that's greater than mine, when I don't know what else to do. Some people pray, some people meditate. That's a way of surrendering and just being present. Surrendering the thoughts, the merry-go-round. Surrendering the shoulds. Should is the first word of shame. Should have already mastered everything. How many times when I've been in should or shoulding on myself, do I think I should have known better? I had an incident earlier this year and I should have known better. And it's like, really? No. You finally, it had to do with fraud and it had to do with somebody with good energy telling me lies, which I didn't pick up. And it has nothing to do about should. And some of it has to do with really listening to love's inner voice and acknowledging when I get into fear or when we get into fear, other things show up. And that's part of self-discovery too. And that's part of having courage. So then we talked about listen to your intuition with Anastara Macaw. And what is your intuition? Is it what's going on up here? Is it what's going on here? Is it what's coming in from here? And it's probably pieces of all of that. And anybody can define intuition pretty much any way you want, depending on what aspect you're coming from. For me, it's about listening to the energy, coordinating it with what I'm thinking about whatever, and then asking if it's true for me right now. It's interesting. I'm reading a pre-book by Paul Holt. He's written a few books out there. Paul Hoyt, Hoyt. And it's on truth and discerning truth. And it's fascinating. He's been working on it for about 10 years, and he's hoping to finalize it in the next few months. And he was part of the Kindness Circle, and he asked if anybody was interested in reading it and giving him comments. And I raised my hand and I said, sure. And I'm really learning a lot. I'm also finding things that I ask him questions about to see if he wants to look at that or add something about that or whatever. And so that's all part of intuition too, because our truth is about our history. And a lot of our truth and how we see what's true can be based on our core beliefs that we were raised with, or core beliefs around trauma, core beliefs around safety, core beliefs that we have in our back part of our brain that doesn't have feelings. And it comes up, and sometimes those core beliefs drive my bus, drive your bus. And that's why I want to ask the questions. Where are you coming from? Who is driving this bus? And really acknowledging that I have many parts of me. I have little Brendy, I have teenage Brenda, I have young adult divorcee, I have mom, I have, all of that. Plus I have grandmothers and my mother, and, all of that are all part of me because they're part of my DNA. So it's just intuition. It's just interesting. Intuition can come from all of those places. And then we had Constance Chapman and Free Your Joy Through Creativity. And we had so much fun on that show because we got to doodle. Because she said, if you're in kind of a mess, if you're in emotional turmoil, she says, go to the canvas. And what I say now, what I've gotten since then, is whatever your canvas is, whether it's sewing, whether it's a quilt, whether it's knitting or crocheting or journaling or painting or drawing with a pencil, it doesn't matter what your canvas is. Go to it and see what needs to be said. See what's stirring you up. And we each showed our doodle. It was really quite fun. And we hope that the audience doodled too. And then we had healing received when we welcome in the divine feminine. And we talked about the divine feminine with Kathleen Joan, and we did Reiki healing for the audience. And anyone who watches that show today or in the future will also get a Reiki healing because it's evergreen, because it comes from loving energy. And then for 2025, or for the second season, there's 12 in a season. We have Brandy Benton, who's dismantling shame. Again, talking about shame, because we can't talk shame enough, with compassion. And healing is always in progress. It's never done. When we talk about diseases like a broken bone, that's not a disease, but a fracture can be healed and it's done. Diseases are usually chronic in one way or another. The flu, not so much. COVID can be for some people. Allergies can be for some people, because disease is dis-ease of the body. Where is the body not at ease? And Brandy's a mind-body coach. And so we talk about dismantling shame. Should have already mastered everything with compassion. Because compassion rules the roost, to me, being compassionate and accepting, because it's part of acceptance for me. And then we have Jill Lublin, The Power of Kindness in Publicity. And then Diane Foster talking about the shoulds, leaving the shoulds behind. And then Gail Weiner, Overcoming Dating Challenges in Midlife and Beyond with DateWise. And then here we are. So lots to look at, lots to be part of. My link tree is available. Let's take some deep breaths as we're listening to some closing music. And now you know some of the topics and speakers, guests that are coming up, or they've already happened probably, but that's okay too. And really look at your resolutions. Look at the honesty around them. Are they dream resolutions? Are they compassionate, loving resolutions? And enjoy the shows that we've created out there, because you as the audience are also part of the show. Your energy is part of the show. Any comments that you make, and on my link tree, you can actually make comments about the show. So there's my link tree going across the bottom. Please don't hesitate to contact me through the link tree and leave a comment about this show. I'd really appreciate it. Take good care. Let's do some final breathing with some beautiful music and look at what resolutions you're making today about how you wanted your day to go. And is it based in honesty, or is it based in dream? And is it doable? Are you looking at yourself that you can do 100 things today, and is that real? I can think that too, and it doesn't always work. So look at that for the next few days. Don't forget, this is Brenda Balding in Love's Inner Voice. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or anytime you want to watch a show. That's when it's streamed. Take good care, my friends. Let's do some heart breathing to some beautiful music. Breathe in light and love. Let go of anything you're ready to surrender into that loving light. Thank you for being with me today. Blessings to each one of you as you move through your day, through your evening.